feeling just a little bit nervous about what we're about to get into. I've always wanted to ride here, and I've seen some pretty gnarly stuff up there, and got me a little anxious, but a little excited. So we'll see how this goes. When you pull up to the trailhead at your home trails, you know what to expect. And when you watch videos of far off places, you imagine what it would be like riding there. On this day, I had the opportunity to try to cram as much Bellingham in as my legs could handle. So together, let's find out if it's really what it's cracked up to be. To start off, I found myself at Bellingham's infamous Galbraith mountain. Hidden beneath these trees is more than I can ride in a day. Thanks to Trailforks, Galbraith makes my local spot look like some kind of joke. Instead of bumbling my way around, I decided that getting a guide is probably in my best interest. Who's this guy? Some of you may recognize Josh from the Daily MTB Rider channel. Dude, good to see you, man.
I know, dude. You too.
In your neck of the woods, finally.
Finally. Woo!
It was his videos that made me really want to visit Bellingham. And as we pedal up to the trails, the anticipation was high. The pedal in is super chill, but things turn up as you get into the trails. Well, that climb was fun until it wasn't. And then before you know it, it gets worse. Joking aside, the climbs weren't too bad, but you can definitely understand why the locals are strong. Apparently this last little punch is legitimate. Oh my.
Are you ready for the dumbest advice that actually makes total sense here? If it looks like a double, it probably is. If it doesn't look like a double, it's probably not. There's no surprises. And a lot of these ramps, all these ramps, you can roll all of them.
Even though Josh told us that, I always ride timidly when I don't know a trail. And as we dropped in, I was just as full of excitement as I was anxious. You would think that after I rode by the first few features that were exactly as Josh explained, I'd loosen up a bit. But unfortunately, I'm just not that guy. With this in mind, it's actually the one thing that I regret the most about Bellingham. We were only there for one day, and although I would have loved to go back and lap every trail we rode, the reality was I really wanted to see as much of Bellingham as I could, and so I pretty much just rode blind and paranoid all day. I didn't want to do the skinny.
It's not skinny.
It was to me.
It's a fatty.
It was a fat skinny. I spent a good portion of the ride going past features that I knew I would hit without caution on the second run. Oh yeah, it does have a ramp on the other side. But the thought of hurting myself on the first ride of a 10-day road trip just seemed foolish. Oh, okay. On the other hand, every feature I passed did do something positive. It really made me anticipate going back to Bellingham and riding there for several days.
It's kind of what happened to me the first time I rode this.
I just need to see his stuff first.
Yeah.
I just won't roll into anything. Regardless of how I felt passing features, I was taking it all in and definitely enjoying myself. Like Bentonville, a lot of the riders here are really good at jumping. And the obvious reason is they build progression into the trails. I think part of my hesitancy is, where I live, there isn't much of that, and you can find yourself on a fun, flowy trail that all of a sudden has a huge gap jump. Bellingham did a great job of building confidence while being fun. And although I'm not much of a jumper, I'm plenty used to steep drop-ins. But apparently if they're built out of wood, I'm scared. Oh God. It's those moments that you know something's in your wheelhouse, but you just need to commit, that really help build your confidence. It was wins like this throughout the day that really helped me loosen up and make the ride super memorable. Woo! Before you know it, the jitters start to fade and the faith in the trail builders grows. And even though I'm casing jumps like a bad lawyer, I start to think to myself, maybe I am a jumper. The trail building in Bellingham is phenomenal. It's crazy to see berms that are essentially wall rides. And even though the dirt was considered dry and blown out to the locals, it was something we only dream about in Northern California. Jesus. Woo! builders in Bellingham apparently aren't just dirt artists, but wood sculptors too, and also makes setting up your buddy pretty easy. So we got a squirrel over here, some bunnies. Got an owl up there, 2 owls. Dong shrooms. All right. Show me how you rub the head. You almost went for it too.
I almost was gonna make a comment, but then you said that. And I was like, nope.
I guess the joke's on me though, because I'm the one standing on the side of the trail holding the camera, and Josh is the one hitting this jump.
All right, let's go down the blue one. The blue one's fun. All right, sweet.
Remember earlier when I said I regretted not being able to lap anything? Well, that wasn't entirely true. We did lap this fun little jump line a few times. It was a short progression line with a handful of jumps, and then only a couple of minutes back up to the top.
Woo!
By the time I rode it 3 times, I went from brake checking everything to cleaning the jumps. It was a great primer for what I was about to experience in Whistler. It's that repetition that really builds confidence, and for a guy that isn't much of a jumper, it felt like a win. After spending the morning skipping features, I definitely needed to pick me up. Let's watch the difference a few runs makes. The added confidence might not have been enough for me to do this teeter-totter. Nor did I hesitate riding by this skinny either. However, I did start to get a little more bold with the wood features. Woo! Yeah! It's just beautiful in here. It's honestly the one thing I'm taking away from this day of being here is I have to come back and like spend some time here. Holy cow. First half of the day in Bellingham, and I'm very impressed. As we headed back to the truck, I was grateful that Josh could show us around. The last time I saw him, we climbed over 5,000 feet to the top of a mountain and followed it up with 14 miles of downhill. Fortunately, this adventure we shared together didn't have as much pay to play as the last one. It was super fun to see his local goods, and not to mention, it's always fun to see friends that don't live close. You know, the kind that feels like no time passed.
This is a terrible idea. Whoever thought of this? I shouldn't be here.
We also stopped by Transition Bikes to grab a post-ride beer like any other proper Bellingham mountain bike tourist would do. It was really fun checking out the bikes and being as touristy as possible. Oh yeah. Even though we said goodbye to Josh, our riding wasn't done for the day. We headed just outside of town to an area called Chuckanut to do a couple of shuttle laps. This descent would end up being the highlight of my day. Aside from the stunning views, there's a complete gut punch of a climb that we had to try to see how far we could get up before succumbing to the fact that we just aren't that strong. Not biker ride without a hike bike. This is definitely worthy. Back in Northern California, I tend to ride a lot of fast, techie trails that really just keep you on your toes. Although there are some jumpy trails around, it's definitely not the norm. Woo! So at this point, I was having fun riding all day, but I wasn't in my element. You know, where you're really having fun. Well, that's fun.
Yeah, the whole trail's like this.
Okay, I'm in. We bumbled our way down the hill, stopping to look at features and figure out what line was good for us. Right on. How you feeling about tech?
Not excited.
Not excited.
Wait, was that not your jam, Peasy?
No.
There were things that there was no way I was going to do. But every group has that guy, so we got to see what it's like to ride with the screw loose in person.
I was like, oh yeah, dude, we're gonna get in all that butt puckery shit, and then I sent him this small mouth bash just going. He's like, that's disturbing.
One way or another, we all found lines we were comfortable with, and we worked out the shuttle math just right so we could get back up top. So far this day was going perfect, except for one thing. I'm sure you've heard that rattle on my bike by now. Here's a PSA for the day. Service your fork before going on an epic riding trip. Something started clicking, but wasn't messing with the performance, so I just had to send it as is. The only thing that sucked more than that noise was the climb, hike a bike, back up to the top.
Oh God, why am I breathing so hard? I can see the ocean right there.
With all that said and done, this second lap is one of my favorite memories from this trip. If you're digging this video and you want to see the rest of the trip, we make our way over to Squamish and my mind gets blown. Then we go to Whistler, and somehow I get the idea to try to do 20,000 feet of downhill in a day. That's right, 20,000. Hit subscribe and bang on that bell so you know when those videos drop. Plus, seeing the subscriber count grow just motivates me to keep making these videos. I really appreciate all of you that have subscribed so far, and if you just hit the button, thank you. Back to Bellingham. Sometimes that last lap of the day just isn't as much fun as you want it to be. Your legs are toast, your hands and feet, they're over it. And it feels as if you were chasing the dragon, like some sort of drug addict trying to get one more fix. This lap, it wasn't like that. It was everything I wanted it to be. Although I only spent one day in Bellingham, I can totally understand why it gets the hype it does. The dirt is great, the builders are even better, and the town itself has a bunch of great food and some tasty beers. Do yourself the favor, stop thinking about it. Book the trip. Bellingham has been amazing, but it's time to go to Squamish and scare the shit out of ourselves. How you feeling about Bellingham?
Oh, I love Bellingham. It's so good.
So good.
So good.
So good. Bye, Bellingham. We're gonna miss you. And remember, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.